Hello friend, my name is Doombabe and today we're going to be talking about No Game, No Life. The anime follows Shiro and Sora, two siblings that are not only just neat hikikomoris, but they are otakus. Very, very intense video game otakus. So intense that they've never lost to anyone in their lives other than each other, and they're known throughout the gaming community as blanks. And that's not because they have zero losses, but it's because they cheated the game so that they don't have a username, it's just a blank space. And coincidentally enough, their names in kanji can come together to form the word blank space. Which is fitting because that perfectly describes the amount of work that went into creating these characters. But they get a mystery email from an unknown sender inviting them to play a game of chess. And once Shiro beats this person in chess, he sends them another link inviting them to join a world that would be more fitting for them. As soon as they click on it, they are transported to a fantasy world named Disboard and learn that the stranger known as Tet is the god of this alternate reality. In the realm of Disboard, everything is decided through games. And when I mean everything, I mean everything. Your existence, your lives, your possessions, and even country borders are decided through games. And of course, there are 10 pledges that every citizen in Disboard must swear by. And by the time that Sora and Shiro finally arrive, humanity, which is just their term for humanity, has been pushed back and almost wiped out to the point of where they can only occupy one city named Elkia. And because they're the main characters of an anime, it's apparently up to them to use their unparalleled intelligence to return humanity back to its former glory. As I've said in the past, the opening sequence is what sets the mood for each episode, and the intro for this anime it wasn't all it could be. It was good, but it could have been a lot better. It was just average. Maybe it's because I was spoiled by Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood openings, but this just felt kind of generic and boring, and it really just wasn't all that remarkable. The closing, though, was actually pretty good. The song was sung by Shiro's voice actress and was well performed on her part, and the song itself was expertly created by the composer and the lyric writers. I especially loved the use of the gentle watercolor art, which nicely contrasts the extremely vibrant and sharp art style that is depicted through the rest of the anime. I wasn't completely blown out of the water when I first watched it, which is why I gave this a 7.5 instead of a 9 through 10. That doesn't really mean there's anything wrong with it, though. It just wasn't like, bah. Now, as I said earlier in my very clever jab, the character development for this anime was fucking terrible. And I don't just mean bad, I mean it was awful. Let's start out with Sora. He's a Gary Stu that is not only a charismatic 18-year-old genius, but he never makes any mistakes and he doesn't have any legitimate character flaws. Sure, there's the fact that he can't function without his sister, and he's a disgusting pervert, but those only exist for comedic relief and as an excuse to throw in as much ecchi as humanly possible. But we'll get to that later. In terms of serious character flaws, he has none. As for Shiro, the preteen that was introduced with a panty shot, she's just a remarkably smart little girl that has no personality whatsoever because she's emotionless, which is clearly just an excuse for the writers to say, hey, I don't feel like putting all that much work into this character, so let's make her stoic. Like her brother, she'll go into a catatonic state if he leaves the room, and she'll become incredibly jealous if Sora so much as even looks at another female, which sort of goes hand in hand with the whole implied incestuous relationship that they have together, which wouldn't necessarily bother me if she was not 11. Oh, and let's not forget Stephanie. Stephanie is the girl that the siblings meet in episode 1 where she bets away all of her clothing in a poker match. And then in episode 2, while having no clothes, Sora beats her in a game, and his wager was that she would have to fall in love with him if she lost. So this girl who just lost her clothes, who is wearing just a towel in a room with two strangers she has never met before, and just lost any hope of taking her grandfather's place as queen, she now is forced to love a person who is incredibly manipulative and then goes on to abuse the shit out of her later. Because one of the 10 pledges in Discord is that you must always respect any and all wagers. She is then forced to strip naked in public, dress like a dog, and she becomes essentially Sora's slave. But it's okay because she's actually really intelligent, despite acting like a total fucking moron that has no control over her emotions whatsoever. At no point in the story did I ever feel like Stephanie was a legitimate character, an actual part of the cast. The entire time, she was just Sora's plaything. She was literally just a toy that he used. The only time they ever even remotely attempted to humanize her and make her seem like she was anything more than an object was when they mentioned that she graduated at the top of her class, and she actually apparently has very good social skills, though for some fucking reason, she never utilizes these skills. And this sort of brings me to the whole ecchi thing that I mentioned earlier. And let me tell you what, there was such an abundance of tits and ass in this anime that the creators of High School of the Dead would have passed out. There was an entire episode dedicated to ecchi where Sora gets an angel off and then removes the women's genitals and then removes their clothing during a game, including his fucking 11-year-old sister. But that's okay because there weren't any nipples and there weren't any vaginas, so that means not only did it not have to be censored, but that made it totally okay to have essentially what was child porn in an anime. In terms of how the games were actually worked out, though, the writing was exceptional. In the episode of ecchi I just mentioned, Sora really conveyed his genius through a word game that was expertly scripted. And despite the anime being cliche in the sense that the main characters never actually lose, there was a level of intensity in these games that really kept you on the edge of your seat. Other scenes in the anime tended to drag on, as I am not entertained by fan service, and any other time, it was pretty much just really droll writing. But every time a new game started, I was immediately snatched up and I was very invested in what was going on. And like I said, the characters never lost, but that wasn't really the point. It wasn't a matter of, are they going to lose? Are they going to win? No, I wanted to see how they won, and that's what made the writing really good. As for the greater story, I wasn't impressed at all. The plot of a super smart underdog with no redeeming qualities being fated to be a ruler of a country and save humanity? That's never been done before. And then there was the whole thing going on with Tet, where he was just a bored god that wanted a worthy rival. I understand by this point that everything has been done, and to avoid cliches would be something that would actually be pretty damn difficult. It's just when there are cliches up the wazoo with no form of uniqueness whatsoever, I just find it to be a very lackluster story that is solely the fault of the writing team. I do want to point out that I really did like the gaming references that were sprinkled throughout the show. I feel like they were there to remind you that yeah, these main characters are super geniuses, but at the same time they are also really just geeks that really like video games. I know, you're saying, Doom Babe, really? 8 out of 10? Let me explain. First, let me rant and rave about how the anime is so ridiculously beautiful. It looks so fucking perfect. I love it. I love how they made the real world dark and almost monotone while transitioning to a world that is bright and vibrant. I love how they used every color available to them and took an artistic approach to everything, especially with the eyes. The hair design was a little bland in comparison, but the eyes were so detailed and so wonderfully created that each and every pair looked like they belonged to an ethereal being. I also simply adored how they used what looked like a brown or a burgundy for the outlining, because by using a color other than black, it really reminds the viewer that these characters are not actually in a video game such as like Sword Art Online or .hack. They're on a totally separate plane of existence. The world itself is what captivated me. Everything was flawless. The entire design team knew exactly what they were doing and created an extraordinary land full of magic and wonder. If I were to ever envision a fantasy land, this is what would come to my mind from now on. As for the animation, everything was crisp and smooth, and I have no complaints whatsoever because everything just ran seamlessly together. The reason I docked 2 points isn't because of the scandal thing that went on, because I guess some manga illustrator ended up being a tracer, and there was a huge stink about that, but I'm talking about the anime, not the manga. No, the reason I docked 2 points is because of the ecchi. If they didn't design all of the women to be sex kittens in these sleazy costumes with a huge emphasis on tits, this would have been a 10 out of 10. I don't give 10 out of 10s. I do not give perfect scores, but No Game No Life would have been a 10 out of 10 if they didn't put in so much fucking fan service. This shit is exactly why people keep thinking that anime is all about explosions and sexy chicks. And the anime community keeps encouraging this. That's not okay. I really wanted to like this anime. I really wanted to like this anime. The art is beautiful, the soundtrack is great, the animation is smooth, and everything's on point, and the writers did an exceptional job with creating the games and creating these intense moments. And I can rant and rave about all those good points, but it doesn't cover up the abrasively apparent flaws. The writing for everything but the games was slow and bland, and no character even had a smidgen of genuine development to keep me interested. I maybe would have been able to look past that if the fan service wasn't so present all the time. Ecchi is caustic to a good anime and video game, and the creators relied on it so heavily to keep these immature little kids interested that it ruined the show. It ruined any chance the show had to actually be of quality. I know this is an extremely popular anime with a nearly rabid fan base, and that actually kind of scares me a little, because that's telling me that the community itself is supporting anime that makes anime look bad, but it's supporting an anime that is objectifying and demeaning women. And I'm not the type of person that's like, oh, it has a shadow of cleavage, this is so sexist and horrible. No, I'm not like that. I mean, I can deal with fan service. Fan service is something where it usually doesn't bother me if it has a place being there, like with B Gotta HK. But in something like this, no, it didn't need to be there. And other than No Game No Life being exceptionally pretty, I don't understand the hype, because that was really it. It had really pretty visuals, and that was it. Anyways, that is all I have to say about No Game No Life. I'm sorry, I probably did go on a rant. This is a 30-minute recording so far. I got angry. I had a lot of things I needed to say, but it needed to be said or else I would have fucking exploded. So, anyways, I will see you guys in the next video. Okay? Bye! Beyond the characters and the backgrounds, though, I have nothing but praise. The menu had an elegant look to it, the text bar was gorgeous, and even the save screen had a pristine look to it. And I really loved the transitioning that they used.